tremendous significance of this couple. Ach HaKoyach. Okay, the second line, and there's a little bit into it. Ach, however, this ach implying something very important that I'm going to get too deeply involved in what we said till now, because the real thing is first coming. Hakoyach behakeli, the capability in the keli. Lies bahem bechinas habitul alidei ha'oir. The capability indicating that there should be the aspect of bitul alidei ha'oir, which means that the keli should submit and accept the effect of the oir to the point that they will have bitul. In other words, even though the bitul is effectuated by the process, by the presence of the oir, and we already learned before that oir is the from bitul. Oir is the from AYIN. Oir is by definition AYIN. What is the meaning of these words? Oir is by definition AYIN. Oir represents and alerts to the awareness of the source of its source, rather than itself. It's hard to translate the word oir in our lingo. Normally we translate light. But when we say light, we mean light that illuminates, has an effect of light. But oir, in the real sense of the word, is a reflection of the source. The oir of the etzem. This is the real meaning of the word oir. And in truth, it reflects the phenomenon of light, even as we experience it. The phenomenon of light is that there is a luminary, there is an etzem. In other words, a light is a reflection of the fact that there is a presence of something that is by essence light. That doesn't have to create light, but it is light in essence. Because it is light in essence, that's why its presence transformed the entire environment to have the effect of light. But the word oir, at its inception, does not mean the oil that illuminates. It means the reflection of the truth of the etzem. This is the real meaning, this is the essential, the initial word, meaning of the word oil. Because that oil is representative of the etzem, again, the word etzem is like a word, but etzem is a very profound inference. Etzem means an essence. An essence means something that is true in and of itself. It's not dependent on anything else for its sustenance to be. To take this into our consciousness. Again, since it's not the first time we're learning, we have to get a little bit into its reality. We live. Baruch Hashem, we all live. We have life in us. The life that we have in us, which is reflected in the fact that our bodies live, are sustained, and rejuvenated, and so forth. This life, as we experience it in our bodies, is not eternal. This life can dissipate. As a matter of fact, it generally dissipates. This is what's called end of life. God forbid. But this end of life is only the end of life as it is reflected in the body. Because this is not the essence of life. This is the oil of light, of life. The essence of life, the neshama itself, that never dissipates. That cannot dissipate. It's in what's called an atzmi. It's the truth itself of life. So that when our physical life dissipates, life does not dissipate. Our physical life dissipates, which means the reflection of life, the neshama life, as it is affecting our bodies, is removed. But life itself, the neshama, that is an eternal reality. This is what we are inferring over here. Talking about the kelim Natzilus, the higher, the Ruchenzike kelim, for which the marshal is our bodies. The kelim, just as like our body, has the ability to be affected by the neshama, by life, to the extent that the body really lives. But its life is not what's called the essential, not its own life. It is a life that is being imbued into it by the neshama. The same is what's called the kelim l'mayla and yatzilus. The kelim also have oil, but their oil is not of their own. The oil in them is the oil of the key. And they have received this oil. In order to receive this oil, the kelim have to have an element of beetle. Beetle means to negate their worldly presence and relate to the oil of the key that shines through them. Just as in our own life, in our own bodies, we are alive. We are alive in our bodies. The principle of life, as we experience it in our bodies, is not the life of the body. The body is a receptacle for the life of the neshama. And the reason the body is a receptacle for the neshama is because, in fact, the body has an aspect of beetle, of refinement. The body is not just a chunk of meat. There is warmth, there's life in it. and the blood, there's a bloodstream going through it, constantly keeping it active. And this way, then the body is able to reflect and to experience life within the soul. In other words, it is the beetle, the refinement in the body that allows the life of the neshama to take effect and to be revealed in itself. This is what we're discussing right now. The body is a physical body. Where does it have this capability? Where does it get this capability of refinement to the extent that it is a receptacle for the neshama, which is a completely different reality. It's a divine reality. It's exactly the question we're dealing with. The milo, which is called keli. The body is a proper representation in our world of the keli. And the Rebbe is asking a question. I'm saying again from the second line, now that we know what we're talking about. However, hakoya behakelim, the ability in the kelim, liyes bohem bechinas habitul, the ability in the kelim that there should be in the kelim the aspect of beetle. Alidei ha'oir, even though the beetle is affected by the oir, but that does not explain how come the kelim themselves acquire such a beetle. Why are the kelim reflecting the oir? Kelim and oir are different worlds. Therefore, however, where is the koyach and the kelim come to that they should have the beetle through the oir? But oizois, not only that they should have a normal beetle, a submission to the oir, recognize that the oir is more important. This is not the end. Oizois, more than that. Sheha beetle year, that the beetle should be in such a manner. Beetle a beetle that should represent a beetle a beetle that permeates their entire being, not a beetle of submission, where he remains and what he is, but he is submitting to a greater reality, a greater meaning. A complete self-nullification. Where do we see the AYIN this is the kind of beetle that takes place? Who says that this is the beetle? The beetle is just receive the oil. So the Rebbe says no. The beetle is in the essence in the entire being. Where do we see that? That ultimately the kelim, as a result of the oil being mislabish in the kelim, that permeates and refines the kelim to the extent that that they can unite with Ein Sof. To unite with Ein Sof, there you cannot misrepresent yourself. Ein Sof cannot be misunderstood. Ein Sof is the pure truth itself. There is no a subset of that. So that the kelim should be mishachet be'ein soif. This is not the result of the kelim understanding what ein soif is, or something of that approach, of that nature. Mishachet be'ein soif means that you are truly at the level to be one with ein soif, which means that your worldly presence is totally refined to the point where it doesn't have any effect at all. And you are completely in the AYIN Soif aspect. As a result of that, the Kelim can be misyached be'AYIN Soif. Can unite with AYIN Soif. Again, coming back to us, in our mashal, the Kelim Bayas is the body. There is an aspect of that in our own bodily experience, where the neshama is mislavish in the body, and the life in the body is because of the neshama, but that life permeates the body to the extent that it is true that the body is alive. It's alive not independently of the neshama, but with the neshama it is truly alive. And this union that it is truly alive as a result of the neshama is very, very obvious because of the fact that the body is rejuvenated, is fresh all the time. Whereas body per se is a physical base. A physical base has to dissipate and lose its freshness. And the fact is that it doesn't lose its freshness because of the presence of the neshama, of the oir. This presence of the neshama in the body is not just a superficial presence. The body is completely bisyached, unites with the neshama. And it is absolutely true to say that the body is alive, even though body and life is not, body does not have life per se. But because of the neshama, and because the body submits to the neshama, is bottled to the neshama, and accepts the neshama, this is why the body itself, it is true to say that the body itself really is alive. And this is the mashal for the Indian with the Milani over here, that the Kelim Beetle Beatzim Mahusham, she shall be in Israel. They unite with the Israel. There's absolutely much to speak about this, but every day, every time we come to it, we add another little notch. Now, going back inside.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yes, you can. Just want to, okay, we come here at the end of the third line, and just want to clarify where we're up to. We're up to the question. We're looking for the answer to the question of how is it that the Kelim are so profoundly self-nullifying that they can be completely mishyached be'AYIN Soif. How is it possible? Again, by coming back to the mashal, the body, how can the body become alive from the neshama? It's a lifeless piece of meat. Your turn, Baruch.
It almost sounds as though this bittul and his yaftus happens automatically, memela, and there's no avoida involved in either of these things. Is that true?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so, but where do you see that there's an avoida in the body becoming coupled to the neshama in our mashal? What does the body do?
The body accepts the life of the neshama.
But is that a void or is that an automatic thing?
One second, when you avoid you're referring to avoid with seichel, originating in seichel. No, it's not avoiding seichel. Although there is an aspect of seichel. Chochmah have to perceive the presence of the neshama in order for this to happen. But this, we are hardly aware of it. But yes, indeed, there is a bodily response to the neshama that allows the neshama to permeate and bring the body to life.
And by life,
In other words, in this term, we're talking about avoida. In this he can more accurately refer to as something appreciating. The body does appreciate the presence of the neshama.
But
It
does it have
welcomes
to? Does it have to? Again, it welcomes it, but that's not work. Is that work for the body, or it's just something that the body does it because that's the natural.
Baruch.
Here I am. Yeah.
Think in terms of avoida at a higher level than what you know avoida. You open up sefer and start learning words. When the body appreciates neshama, that is avoida. There's a profound beetle in the part of the body.
that it comes to life. You hear you're meaning something beyond biological life, right? And it seems like biological life, being alive, comes first, and that makes a fitting place for the neshama to settle. So when you say coming alive, you don't mean biological life. You mean like waking up to real life.
I want to comment on the terminology. Biological life is a misnomer. It's our means of saying, oh, I understand what life is. There's a biological process in it. This is not what life is at all. This is our blind way of explaining what's going on in the body. So, I don't understand what's going on. Of course I understand. It's biological. Life is a neshama quality. There is no biological life.
So, okay, good. But the baby is born, and you can tell whether it's healthy or struggling, and then as it gets older and has its bar mitzvah, so it sort of reaches into true life. But as it's first born, we're not really referring to that healthy living state. We're talking about something more ruchni, yeah?
No, I didn't follow exactly. Baby is born, it is fully alive. But bar mitzvah, its functional koiches are developed. But where are the koiches coming from? Where are the koiches rooted? The koiches, the baby born has these koiches at birth.
Okay.
But, no, one second. Once you broaches the subject. The koiches of the neshama, all 10 koiches of the neshama, starting with the chokhmah, all down. Are they in the baby as it is born? It is a well-known fact, I'm sure you know it very well, that a baby at birth cries. The cry of the baby is a sign that the cry of a healthy life. But a baby does not cry when it comes out of the womb. It's a concern. And what the nurse does at the time is give it a little slap, wake it up.
Right, that's illustrating.
That's illustrating that life at birth is an experienced life. It's life in the full sense of the word. That translates at all levels. At the baby's level, it is crying. The baby's intelligence is crying. Crying by the baby is like speech by you.
Okay, so human life starts from birth, and that's already submission to the neshama.
Human life starts at inception, really.
Right.
But it manifests itself at birth, no question about it. And if you ask a lady that's carrying a baby, she'll tell you that the baby is constantly kicking her, moving around.
And that's due to, and that life force, we're saying, by a human being is on account of submission to neshama, correct?
Yes.
And so we're saying there's no separate biological life. We're saying life by the human being is a neshama at work.
The biological aspect is the ability of the body to reflect the life of the neshama. In order for the body to be able to reflect the neshama, it has to be completely submissive to life, to neshama. This is called biological life.
Okay, and the fact that you have behemoths, and we call it a chaya,
I lost
life,
you.
it's not real life that we talk about. That's just...
I lost you. Say again.
You say by a behemoth, a wilde chaya, a wild beast. So seemingly that straight biological function, we call that life. A chaya, wilde chaya, but we're not saying... It's a misnomer. That's not really life, even though the word chai is there.
You're talking about an animal? I don't understand what you said. Right.
By an animal.
An animal also has life, but not comparable to the life of the neshama that a human being has. But yes, he's alive.
And he's
also a nefesh. It's called a nefesh.
Okay. So we're saying there too, by virtue of an animal soul. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. The kelim, in order to receive the oil, have to have bittul. And the Rebbe is asking this profound question. Let's learn inside. The question is a rhetorical question inside, but it exactly speaking about that. However, the second line, the capability in the kelim that in them should be the infant bittul. Bittul, again, where is on bittul is in order to be able to receive the oil, even though it is effectuated by the presence of oil. Where did the kelim have that capability? Because this is not oil, this is kelim. Where did the kelim get that capability to be bottled to a bottle? The oil, and not only that it should have bittul at a keli level. At the keli level means that it is able to receive the oil. That's a bittul. It's not the bittul of the keli. The keli is sensitive to the oil and to receive that bittul. But the Rebbe says, no, the oil says. The bittul goes beyond the acceptance level of the keli. The third line, that the bittul should be in a manner, a unique kind of bittul. A bittul not just as a receptacle, but b'bchinas bittul v'atzem mahuso, a beetle that permeates the entire being. It is not a beetle that they are submitting, but their whole being is permeated with beetle. Why do we need that kind of beetle? We must have that kind of beetle. Why should you see out the beit in soy baru? Because ultimately they need to be nisiyached to reunite with the Ein Sof. In order to reunite with the Ein Sof, there has to be a beetle beyond the beetle of Cain. There should be a beetle at the level of Oyer and beyond.
That's the opposite.
What's the opposite?
I thought we were saying that the bittul of the kalim is higher than the bittul of the ur.
All right, why are you jumping on from left field? Just listen to what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. Just trying to help here. No worries.
No, you're not helping. Oh, well. Just listen, follow through.
Next time.
That the beetle in the kalim should be a beetle be'etzem mahusam, in their essential being, to the extent that they should be mishyachet be'ein soif. Just like oyer in the kalim should reach to the level of oyer. It's not kalim, they're not mitzias. They should be mishyachet be'ein soif. Where do the kalim have that kind of a capability of a beetle that takes them out of the kalim realm? They are kalim. Okay, so the kalim means they can be submissive. But even you're talking beyond being submissive. You're talking about the complete transformation, nullification. Why nullification? Where does that nullification aspect come from? How do we say that there has nullification? Because as a beetle, the Etzem Mahusam, she is Yahda Be'ein Soif Baru. They should be able to be Yahda Be'ein Soif. To Mishach B'Dein Soif is not enough that it's submissive. Because Mishach B'Dein Soif has to be a pure type of a connection. Let's discuss this for a moment. Oyin Ein Soif. Okay, I have you with me. I got to this point, so we might as well try to identify a little bit. Oyin Ein Soif is not an aspect that can possibly be contained in any koyach, in any koyach. Seichel cannot contemplate Oyin Ein Soif. No koiches, no mitzias, worldly mitzias can contemplate Oyin Ein Soif. Here we say that the Kayin become bottled be'etzem mahusam to Yisad, Yisad be'ein soif, they unite with Ein Soif. This is why he's saying Yisad, but they unite with Ein Soif. Not that they understand Ein Soif. They misyach Ein Soif, because Ein Soif cannot be recognized, contemplated by a created entity. Therefore, it means that the Kalim need to have a beetle of that quality that allows him to be Mishach Be'ein Soif. If the beetle is only from the perspective of their own capability, their own interest, and their understanding of themselves, that does not bring them to the point where they can Mishach Be'ein Soif. The beetle has to be Etzem Mahusam. They're a completely different kind of beetle. A beetle takes them out of their limited presence. They should be Mishach Be'ein Soif. Where is that rooted? Where does that come from? Zehu, this is at the end of the third line. Zehu mibchinas hamaki. This is a completely different effect. This is not a Piyat Kelim. This is from the Makiv of the Hira Yilo. This is not even part of the morality process at all. This is for the makif of Tehirei law. Tehirei law is that which is higher than the source of world. Because of the makif Tehirei law, this is why the kelim are able to have this kind of a beetle that they should be able to mishach be'en sof. Where is Tehirei law come to kelim? How did kelim get this makif Tehirei law? And here's the clincher. To understand the real truth, that the makif Tehirei law has a profound effect on kelim. Why? Because Tehirei law is the real source of the kelim. This is quite shocking. The real source of the kelim is not in the oil, is not what we call Tira Tato, not the way it comes into Mitzias of world. There's no worldly source for kelim. There's nothing more worldly than kelim, and yet world is not the source for kelim. The source for kelim is something which is not only higher than world, but higher than the source of world. The Tehirei law, which is the Shoresh Shemokir HaKelim. A completely different perspective now. We'll finish this line and we get the entire shocking revelation, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. In truth, the Rebbe says, please understand, the beetle of the keli magia lamailo meha beetle shel ho'er reaches. The keli is a keli, it's a world in Mitzias, but it has an inherent beetle. This beetle is not just an aspect of self-nullification, but this beetle is that which relates the keli to that higher level. And the beetle of the keli magia reaches up, higher than the beetle, higher than the beetle of oil. Excuse me, let me see. I have to give my wife to left. I don't know what's on. Beetle of the keli reaches higher than the beetle of oil. Okay? This is not an easy thing to understand. And the Mitzvah Shem will try to discuss it. How can we make sense of this? How can we relate? Make sense is one thing, but how can we relate to the Indian that the beetle of the keli reaches up higher than the beetle of the oil? But before we go there, accepting what the Rebbe is saying, that the kelim have an element of beetle, capability of beetle, and the capability of beetle in the kelim is very, very profound. Such a profound beetle that they can reach, in their beetle, they can even reach up higher than oil. They can reach up higher than the source of oil. Because the source of the kelim is from Tehirei law, the source of oil is Tehirei Tato.
Time check. 10 to 9.
All right.
So if it's question time, I can now
Yes.
I can now re-ask my question without fear of being criticized for it. So
Criticize for it. What are you talking
whatever.
about?
I don't
I
know.
apologize if I criticized you.
Rabbi Paltiel, my question is still in this bittul, like going back to the goof and the neshama. It's hard to understand how this happens without some effort. Don't call it a vita. Call it, something that happens on the part of the goof to change it from its natural state of being a goof that has absolutely no potential for bittul at all. So my question was, is the goof doing anything, or it just happens because when the neshama hits the goof is transformed?
Okay, very good. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Okay, Professor Bush, please understand the following.
Yeah, I may get cut off here because I'm leaving for work and all the time. I'm
When?
listening. Well, I'm
When
leaving.
you're looking for what? No, you
in
have
the
to
car.
you have to listen to the answer to your question.
I'm trying. As long as my iPhone connects, I'm listening. Okay.
Okay, all right, yeah. We have to remember this. And I'm saying this with great emphasis. We have to remember this because we are very easy to lose it. Everything in existence is a creation. It's not an entity that originates in its own being. It's a creation. A creation means that it pre-existed its factual presence. If you don't understand something, please ask me. I'm going straight because this is something which we should be able to relate to. It pre-existed its factual presence. In spirit and in sense of ruach, of chayis, it pre-existed its factual presence. And even after it comes into its factual presence, it still really relates back and draws its inspiration from that higher source. The human body is a human body. Is a body, a physical body. A tree is a physical body. Nobody in his right mind will say that the human body is of a similar make as a tree. Although yes, it is physical, but the human body has refinements and sensitivities that the tree does not have any similarity whatsoever, even though it's also a living body. What is this revealed to us? The human body is a physical body. So why one physical body being different than another physical body? The answer is that since everything is a creation, the created entity, after being created, reflects and connects back to that which conceptualized it before it was created. It retains, it reflects the refinement of the level of the conceptualization. The human body was a physical body. It was conceptualized to be a receptacle for the human neshama. And to allow the neshama with all its riches to be expressed in it. This is why we say that is the chokhmah level, which is really a receptacle for AYIN stuff. And in the human body, there are many different, very different limbs, very different levels. And you take the brain and take the toenail, it's all part of the same body. But the life element in the brain, relative to the life element in the toenail or in the heel, you might have said the heel of the foot, it's two different worlds. Really two different worlds. Therefore, yes, indeed, there's life in the cave. And the Kelim themselves come to life, just like the human body itself comes to life. And the life, if we speak about the human body, we'll understand this much better. The life in the body is of such quality, of such refinement, that we feel body our emotional aspect, and even higher, our intellectual aspect. This,
Well, makes it sound like a perfect fit, but there seems to be years of avoider.
no. The avoider is, please listen to this carefully. The avoider is to stay online, not to be swayed by your worldly experience. The avoider is to truly and perfectly receive that which the neshama gives the body. To stay true to its source. That's the avoider.
So doesn't that imply the body has another agenda?
The body does not have another agenda, but because of the exposure, because we are in physical exposure. It says that in Fish, eyes lead the person to see things, which is fine, but he misunderstands that this which he sees is not meant for him to follow. It's meant for him to elevate. And here's where he makes this mistake.
Okay.
And it's a very easy mistake to make because it's attractive and it's easy. And this is what the avoid is about.
So when we say the youth is a wild donkey, he's a wild donkey from his youth. This is just if he gets sort of distracted, but really every goof is a perfect keli and a willing servant for the neshama.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And you should know that the wild donkey in youth is a reflection of youth, sensing something very, very fine and very great. This is why he's so wild. He's so excited about everything he sees. But he has to be taught and see the meaning of what he sees. He sees the sky. Oh, wow. Understand, the reason you can see the sky, the reason you can appreciate the sky is a profound intellectual reality in your neshama. It's not the eyes that tell you what the sky is. It's your neshama that tells you what the sky is. This is what when the youth can make a mistake, this is where they need guidance.
Thank you very much.
This is what the Rebbe says. And he said, the Rebbe is speaking about the way it is L'mayla and Atzilus. And it is reflected by us at our level. There's a beetle in the kelim. There's a beetle in the kelim in a person, in a Etzem Husa. Not a submissive type of beetle, but a transformative type of beetle. To the extent that the kelim are misachaber inside. This is reflected in the human being. It is reflected in the human being. The human being can be sensitive. He has the various keches and all the way up to Chochmah to be sensitive to Elokus Mamash. And here is where avodah is necessary. Find the truth as you know it from your neshama, rather than as your eyes are telling you from your observation in the world. With the proper guidance, with the proper approach, your seichel, your chochmah ki b'misyachet be'ir in soibor. Because you seichel, your neshama, also had that same source, as it said in the Maimer,
So the body is not the source of, the body is not in opposition and not the source of corruption, but the AYIN ro'eh v'alev chomed is based on seichel getting off track, a misunderstanding.
No. Okay, let's keep it straight. The reason that there is AYIN ro'eh is because we are in the bodily structure. We are in the physical structure.
Right.
But
Okay.
that is, in a sense, that is the source. But this is not misleading. AYIN ro'eh, the eye does not say, I see, follow what I'm seeing.
Okay, so the
I
risk.
told you what there is to see.
Fine.
Now it's up to you and your seichel to say, okay, should that be followed, or how do you treat that which you see?
Right. So this is like saying there's no inherent corruption in the body. It's just the seichel understanding correctly or misunderstanding. That's the whole risk. That's the whole avodah. Yes.
Okay, let's put it in factual terms. When you see something in the world, it is important. This is part of what's called chinuch. What you see is not necessarily to be followed. Everything you see, you're given the eyes to see, but you're also given seichel and a heart to judge whether this is part of your path. Therefore, whatever you see, reflect back in your mind, is this something to be followed or is something to be rejected? They stay bara.
Right. But again, it does seem like it's the body's problem. The goof has, it looks sweet, it tastes sweet, I'll eat it. Well, is it kosher? It's not kosher. So it looks like the goof just wants to do what it wants to do.
No. The goof is never devoid of seichel. The neshama gives a life to the goof, but not exclusively to the goof level. It also brings seichel along with it and brings midas along with it. One has to train himself, if he was not trained in his cradle, to know that before you follow what you see, you have to judge whether this is something to be followed or rejected. Just as when the child comes to eat, sits down at the table to eat, we tell him, no, this you eat and this you don't eat. You don't eat the shell of an orange. You eat only the fruit of the orange, and the shell you throw out. In other words, the principle in human life is that, as you say, the brain has to be in gear at all times. You do not get guidance from your eyes or your hands or your feet. Everything that you're exposed to has to be proposed and shown to the brain and say, okay, is this something to be followed or not? Now, please understand, this process that a person should first find guidance whether this is something to be followed or not. You say, why not? I'm seeing it. The reason that there's a need of judgment and something should be accepted and rejected is because, please, this is the important thing, because the real you is not the one who's able to see, is not the one who is able to feel, not even one who's able to understand. The real you is a neshama reality. The real you is the one who believes in God, who has a perception much higher than any that you experience in your daily experiences. This is why you have to judge before you present something to your life, to your neshama, anything that you observe. Because observation is not where you really are. This is not identifying who you really are.
And and we're saying the goof is ready to and submits to that instruction and that feedback.
Goof is ready. Goof, yes, goof is ready. Goof is ready means because in the goof you have the kochas hanefesh, you have the seichel, and seichel is able to guide you to control your bodily impulses and to go in the right path. It's not a goof choice, but the goof doesn't act on its own. The goof cannot act independently of the neshama.
Okay. Right.
It states inside in the Mama that the bittel of the kaila is higher than the bittel of the oil. Does this have to do with what we're learning now, that the kaila is mesiachet with oil and sof?
Yes, we are scratching the surface on this. This is exactly what we're learning. But we have to have a full explanation of what this means. We haven't had a chance yet to do that. But ultimately, when the kelim are bottled in use, bottled as a mehusa, then the kelim are able to be shachet be'erin sof.
Yeah, this I understand. Yeah, but the next step, what we learn today, that the bittel of the kaila goes higher than the bittel of the oil. Is that necessary to say in order that the kaila should be mesiachet to the oil and sof? You need to say that the bittel of the kaila goes higher than the bittel than the oil.
I really don't know exactly where you're coming from, but clearly yes. The straight answer to you is yes. You're talking the same thing. I don't know. In order to be misiach be'erin sof, misiach be'erin sof means higher than oil. Oil is not erin sof.
Oh,
Oil
this
is a
is what.
deal from erin sof.
Okay, I wasn't clear on this. That oil is not oil and sof.
No, oil is a gila from erin sof. It's a hamshocha from erin sof.
Okay, fine.
Makiv te'erei.
So when David HaMelech is when David HaMelech says Chalal b'kirbi, and he's done all that work. Yeah, he did all that work. That was not to overcome the body. That was to purify his seichel, or to overcome what we'd call yetzer hara, right? It's not that his body was the problem. It was on the level of seichel, and he did this sort of birur by virtue of fasting, etc. Would that be okay to think of it like that?
Oh. I cannot say yes and no because we have not identified the reality of this in these words. So therefore, I'll say yes or no. I'll be wrong either way. I'm a little bit right, a little bit wrong. Let's understand. Do we have time for this? Let's understand. The Yetzer Hara, there's no Yetzer Hara in Atzilus. Neshama per se knows not of Yetzer Hara. Neshama knows only of the divine purity. That is reality. Then the neshama is imbued in the body and sent down into the world and instructed to function in the world. Open your eyes and see the world. Open your eyes and see the world. What does that mean? Does that mean that this becomes my reality now? Or how am I supposed to treat this vision, this observation? So I'm telling you, you're supposed to absolutely see what's going on in the world and deal with it. But you have to interpret and understand the world from a neshama perspective. But I'm in the world. Yes, you are in the world. And your job is not to be swayed by the world level, by the worldly attractiveness, but by the neshama, how the neshama, where the neshama can bring benefit to the world, a neshama quality. You are here in the world, not to be affected by the world, but to affect the world. You should be bringing neshama to the world rather than the world bring the world to the neshama. You're not here to learn what world is. You're here to teach world what neshama is. In order to teach world what neshama is, you have to be there. You have to know what world is. You have to know how to talk to world.
And for that, you need a goof.
To that, you need a goof. And then
goof,
also the neshama should understand how do you talk to the world.
And the goof per se is not a problem. It's the real keli. It's a fitting keli for the neshama. It's battle to the or.
That's right.
And
That's
the
right.
real,
Except becomes challenging, because the minute you're exposed to something in the world, it seems to you that this is an attractive thing. Perhaps this is what I should go for. And you have to restrain yourself and say, no, this is not what you have to go for. It is not that the bodily experience is what you should look for. The bodily experience is to bring the neshama to the world.
Okay.
One second. Let's take a very simple, clear illustration of that. You're supposed to eat, and you have to. That's what you are. And eating is through the body. But before you eat, remind yourself that you're eating food that the Rebbe created, not food that the world provides for you. What's the difference? It's the same food. What's the difference? Right. This little notch makes a whole difference. Yes, indeed, you're eating food, but you're eating food not because the world has food, but because the Rebbe provided the food for you to be able to function in the world. And therefore, before you eat, remember that this is the Rebbe's food, and he's the king of the world. And the reason you're functioning in the world is because there's a king in the world. But you have to function in the world at the worldly level. But what is your aim? What is your orientation for functioning in the world? It's not world, it is the king of the world, in service of the king of the world. So that here the world becomes a means to relate to the Meibushin. We can go on and this and that. Everybody knows what this is about. With all its richness and all that, the Rebbe did not abdicate his position in the creation. He did not tell the world, you replace me. You represent me on the worldly level, yes.
here that we are going constantly back and forth from the worldly perspective to the neshama perspective. How are we supposed to live? Are we supposed to cleave to have the neshama perspective be constant, or do we have to submit to this constant going back and forth?
Thank you very much for your question. Please understand, this is a very important principle. I'm trying to bring it out, but the worldly perspective is in line with the divine intent.
Ah, okay.
When we say, make a bracha before you eat, does that mean don't eat? No, eat. But understand that this food that you're eating is not just worldly created, but there is a divine koya behind it.
Okay, so the actual perspective is to bring the divine into the world.
To recognize, that's why to bring the, because how do you bring it? Because that's where it's come, where it is. It's a divine that creates, that maintains its physical. And the perspective is, do not get swayed by the physical, but recognize the divine force behind it.
Okay.
You're not allowed to mistreat food. Not allowed to mistreat food. Food, what's food? You're not allowed to step on a piece of bread. Did you know that's a halacha? If you walk in the street, there's a piece of bread on the ground. It's on the ground. It can't be eaten anyway. Yes, you have to take it and throw it away throw it in the garbage. But to step on it is not allowed. Inside the Maimon, what we're saying is that in fact, in the world, there is a divine presence. The world is a divine creation. The world exists only because there's a divine presence in it that maintains its presence. Do not be fooled that the world has existence. Everything was created that exists on its own. Big, big mistake. It's a divine presence that maintains a worldly presence. The worldly presence exists within the divine reality. If not for the divine reality, there is no possibility for the worldly presence to exist. As we first wake up from sleeping, we immediately say, Maidanu Lefonecha. Where is Lefonecha? Where do you see the Meibesh? You see the Meibesh the minute you open your eyes. Because the presence of the world is a direct testimony of Meibesh's presence.
So actually we are saying that Modéani should follow us the whole day.
Maidani is the basis of the day, of course. which enables us to appreciate the divine presence in the world. If not for the neshama, then the presence would be, the world would be a world. Like lahabdu, the animal.